This is the largest crowd I can think of, and it's great to see all the young folks here, as well as our veterans and members of the residents of Bridges here in Westford are also welcome. So again, recognizing our veterans, active duty service members, guardsmen, reservists that are present here today, thank you. You have gone above and beyond your citizens' duty to volunteer and your lives and your livelihoods, and to answer your country's call to defend the freedom that we enjoy each and every day. I'd like to thank our families of the troops, the mothers, fathers who are sending their children to war, the husbands, the wives waiting dutifully for their loved ones to return, and the children growing up away from mom and dad. There's a tremendous and overlooked labor of love performed every day in this country by the family and friends who serve as caregivers to our nation's wounded, injured, and ill veterans. Let's not forget our caregivers. Our Gold Star families, the fathers, the mothers, the sisters, brothers, and wives who truly know the depth of sacrifice, service, and loss. This past September, I had the privilege of attending the Congressional Medal of Honor Society's convention in Boston with one of our World War II Navy veterans, Bucky Buckingham, and I got to attend this event. It was great to see that out of the 79 living recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor, 54 of them were in attendance in Boston. It was a tremendous program to honor those recipients. Again, it was their annual convention. One of the recipients in attendance there was a Navy corpsman. Just a real quick story about him. It was, to meet this gentleman, it was just an honor. It is to meet every one of those recipients. But Doc Ballard, who served in Vietnam with the 3rd Marine Division, his story is quite a bit different from some of the other recipients, and I'd just like to share it real quickly. In 1968, in Quang Tri, which is a province of Vietnam, he was rendering aid to his Marines that he was stationed with. A corpsman is assigned to every Marine division, and they go out and they're the first aid providers and corpsmen for our Marine detachments. Well, he was servicing his wounded Marines that were under heavy enemy fire. As he prepared to have his men evacuated, a grenade struck his helmet and fell at his feet. He immediately jumped on it to protect the other Marines that were in the area. The grenade did not explode. Unharmed, he quickly grabbed the grenade, threw it off into the jungle, and it exploded in midair. After what was sure a moment of shock for him, he went on and continued tending to the casualties. Mr. Ballard was awarded the Medal of Honor award awarded the recipient, was a recipient of the Medal of Honor in 1970, and it was in truly humble fashion that he was speaking out as an indication of his, upon receiving the award. He said, "It was harder to wear the medal than to earn it." So if you think about that, it's harder to wear the medal than to earn it. For those that have served, there always seems to be a sense among our community that sometimes it's worse. There are others that are worse off than we are. Someone did more. Someone deserves it more than me. Mr. Ballard returned home so that when so many others had not. He returned with his brothers that were severely wounded in combat. Some chalk this up as a sense of pride, toughness, some call it humility, and others call it a survivor's guilt. He had to live with the thoughts of why was he allowed to live on. But reality, men and women of our armed forces are simply a breed of special people. Our military history is filled with stories of bravery and sacrifice. Through a vast majority of the heroes perished in their attempts to save the lives of others. So not many came home, not a lot of them came home. Mr. Ballard, while he walked away that day, was no less courageous and no less deserving of admiration and accolades. His resolve was tested in a way that few people will ever have to be able to do in their life. In the fraction of a second, he had to choose between saving himself or shielding the Marines nearby. Mr. Ballard did not hesitate. One might even say it wasn't a choice, but rather pure instinct to do what he did. I'm sure he was grateful for the opportunity to walk away alive. For the remainder of his days, he went on and actually got a commission in the Army, was a corpsman, and was in the medical EMS, and actually served as a captain of the northern Kansas city of EMS as a captain in their fire department. He went on to lead a very fruitful life, but he has struggles with the memories of men he wasn't able to save and friends he lost. If you are a veteran or know of one and have uttered or heard something along these lines, I'm no hero. The real heroes are the ones who never came home. So many of our veterans, both past and present, live with these struggles every day and day in and day out. Their stories are varied, but one commonality is that they just have a desire to give and have sacrificed more, especially if it meant saving the life of another. I'd ask you to keep those men and women in your hearts, and remember every day the serious emotions and sometimes serious physical challenges veterans face when they return home from service. In my job, every day is Veterans Day. Before I turn it over to our guest speakers, I'd like to close with a quote from President John F. Kennedy. A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers. God bless you all, bless our veterans, and bless the United States of America. But at this point, I'd like to invite State Senator Eileen Donahue up, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's really a privilege and an honor to be here today with all of you, and it's heartwarming to see so many people coming out in this weather to honor and to thank our veterans, particularly all of the youngsters who are here with us. It's such an important lesson for all of us to take away, that it is always important to remember and to thank our veterans. And you know, when you think about it, the inclement weather that we're experiencing, that's nothing compared to what our veterans have sacrificed over the years, over the decades, for all of us, so that we can have freedom, so that we can live in the greatest country on the planet. So this is a day of thanks and really a day of celebration, thanking all of the veterans who have served us so well and so proudly. A few days ago, in preparing remarks for today, I came across an article about an individual, actually, who was from Westford. And some of you may know him, and maybe some of the younger members of the audience don't, but I thought it was important to share his story today on Veterans Day, and it's so instructive as to what our veterans have done for us. His name was Colonel Jerry Berkowitz, and Colonel Berkowitz was a Vietnam War veteran who lived here in Westford. His story is worth remembering and sharing on this Veterans Day for several reasons. First, Jerry felt the call to duty early on in his life. He enlisted in the Air Force just after his 17th birthday in 1951. When he was serving in the Air Force, he flew over 100 combat missions in Vietnam, winning numerous awards for his heroism, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Bronze Star Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Air Medal. And for his remarkable military achievements alone, we owe Mr. Berkowitz and his family an enormous debt of gratitude. But his story is noteworthy for the chapters that came after his service in the Air Force and after he retired. American veterans have a deep sense of patriotism, of justice, of civic duty, and because of that, their service rarely ends when they retire from the armed services. In Jerry Berkowitz's case, he continued his public service through his work as a member of the Westford Board of Selectmen, its Finance Committee, its Capital Outlay Committee, and its Council on Aging. His dedication to this town is testament to all that veterans have to offer once they return to civilian life. It exemplifies what veterans do. They serve their country and they serve their community, they serve their families, and their life is truly one of dedication, commitment, and service. And when they do return to civilian life, our veterans deserve the best medical care. They deserve the best access to job training programs. And they deserve all of the opportunities that our colleges and universities have to offer. They deserve this for the sacrifices and commitment they have made on our behalf. In short, our veterans deserve society's wholehearted support, and all too often, we have failed to provide that for our veterans. One has to look at the headlines recently where we find stories about the underfunded VA and understaffed VA hospitals. And recently, we read about the tragic deaths of 3 veterans in Boston who died in a shelter for homeless veterans. And today, as we think about service of all of our veterans, you must wonder, with those 3 veterans, could they have been like Jerry Berkowitz? Could they have led happy, productive, healthy civilian lives, putting their military values to work by serving their communities? We'll never know. But it's what we owe to all of our veterans. We owe the nearly 400,000 veterans living in Massachusetts today. We strive to remember this every day when we represent you all in the State House. Recently, the House of Representatives passed bills that provide benefits for veterans. Over the past few years, we've had the privilege of voting on the Valor Act 1, Valor Act 2, and most recently, penalizing those who tamper with veterans' graves, criminalizing their behavior and activities. It's disgraceful what has happened in some of our cemeteries. And the House of Representatives voted on this bill, and the Senate will be taking it up next week. There are other bills that we will be taking up, including those who represent themselves falsely as members of the military in order to gain some unfair advantage for themselves. Again, disgraceful. It's sad that there are some who do that. But that, through the act of recently the House and hopefully next week, the Senate will give full support to criminalize that disgraceful behavior. Our veterans deserve much more, and they deserve our full respect and dedication. I can tell you these bills will have my support, and I certainly trust they will have the support of the entire Senate and will soon become law here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and will add to the history of commitment that the Massachusetts legislature and the administration have pledged to give to our veterans. So again, today is a day to thank all of you for your service. We wouldn't be here today without you. Words cannot express how much we owe you. God bless you, and God bless all of our veterans, past, present, and future. Thank you.
And next up, we'd like to introduce our House of Representatives here, Jim Arciera.
Good morning, Senator Donahue, members of the Westford Board of Selectmen, Westford Fire, Westford Police, our distinguished veterans, ladies and gentlemen. Today we gather to honor our veterans who have sacrificed so much to preserve our freedom, our democracy, our American way of life. Since even before our founding, we've been blessed with an unbroken chain of patriots who have always come forward to serve. Whenever America has come under attack, you've risen to her defense. Whenever our freedoms have come under assault, you responded with resolve. You have fought to not only preserve the American nation and her liberty, but over the decades and centuries have liberated countries around the globe, providing freedom and opportunity. Our veterans have always answered the call with bravery, heroism, always willing to sacrifice everything to preserve our freedom, even sometimes with their lives. Each year, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we pause as a nation, as Americans, to pay tribute to our veterans, to honor those heroes over the generations who have served our country with distinction. Like one of Westford's greatest generation, Willis Bucky Buckingham, Congressional Medal of Honor winner, who joined the U.S. Navy the day after the attack on Pearl Harbor here in Westford. He left at 18 years old. He served aboard the USS Doretha L. Dix, which saw 80 landings in the South Pacific, Italy, and France. It's one of our 9/11 generation heroes, Bill Auger, who joined the Marines after the attacks of 9/11 and served in 2 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Or the many veterans that are here today with their own stories of sacrifice and service to our grateful nation. Words of thanks are not enough. While it's important to voice our eternal gratitude to our veterans, I do believe that our greatest Americans, our military heroes, deserve more. For it's not only in the words that we honor them, but in deeds as well. As a 3-term House member in the Joint Committee on Veterans Affairs, I'm proud that Massachusetts leads the nation in funding of programs and services for our veterans and their families. But that does not mean that the veterans of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts do not continue to have their challenges and need for assistance. We have made great strides in honoring our veterans by expanding benefits, increasing access to our service for them and their families, whether it's helping return veterans deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, helping our veterans who face the challenges and evils of addiction and suicide, preventing veterans from homelessness, making sure that returning veterans are able to gain employment upon discharge, or ensuring that our veterans receive the financial support they deserve to attend any school, state school or college in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. There is still much, much work to be done. Our veterans from the greatest generation to the 9/11 generation have given so much to us. We owe a debt that can never, ever fully be repaid. So long after the battles have ended, and long after our heroes have come home, we as a country and as a Commonwealth must stand by their side. That's who we are as people, and that's who we always must be for our veterans and returning service members and their families. It's only by both our words of gratitude and our civic government actions that we truly honor our veterans each and every day, who have honored us with their service to our nation. So once again, the grateful town of Westford gathers to honor and celebrate the best among us. Veterans, thank you for all you have done for us and still continue to do. May God bless you, your families, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
And next, I'd like to introduce our Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Kelly Ross.
Thank you, Terry, for everything you do for our veterans, for organizing this event this morning, and as Paul Murray mentioned to me a few minutes ago, for being prepared with Plan B on this rainy morning. Good morning, everyone. At the northern end of Town Common, there is a monument honoring those who served during wars from pioneer days through World War I. The plaque on that monument, commemorating the War of 1812, tells the story of Commander Joel Abbott, a Westford native who served during that war. When asked if he was ready to die for his country, Commander Abbott replied, "Certainly, sir, that is what I came into the service for." Today, 200 years after the end of the War of 1812, we honor all veterans, and especially those who are here this morning. You are part of a legacy that dates back hundreds of years. Without you, and without those who came before you, And without those who protect us today, America would not be the strong, proud, and free nation that we all love. We are grateful for your sacrifices. You left your homes, your families, and your friends to serve your country. Some of you were in harm's way. Some of you endured physical wounds. Some of you lived through difficult, life-changing experiences. But all of you knew you were risking what Commander Abbott recognized over 200 years ago. You were prepared to sacrifice your lives for your country. We can never express our appreciation enough for that. We can never forget what you did. So to all of Westford's veterans, you have our eternal respect and gratitude. Thank you all.